Captain Ryan Hale had been through a lot in his life. He had seen countless stars die, fought in battles where entire planets were at stake, and walked through cities that were nothing but ruins of civilizations older than humankind itself. But nothing in his experience felt as strange, as confusing, or as oddly comforting as the invitation he received from Leora, the quiet alien woman who lived on Velithra. Ryan first met Leora at a diplomatic meeting. While most of her kind were cold and distant toward humans, she had stepped forward, her silver eyes glowing softly under the alien lights. "You helped us," she said, her voice calm but filled with something he could not name. "I would like to thank you. Come to my home." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight. Ryan knew better than to trust strangers on alien worlds, especially those who had the power to destroy him with a thought or a gesture. Still, there was something about Leora that felt different. Something soft, something genuine, something human-like in her expression. Against his better judgment, he nodded. "All right," he said, trying to sound casual. "I'll come." Her home was a wonder unlike anything he had ever seen. Built into the side of a glowing cliff, it seemed to shimmer as if the stones themselves breathed. Strange lights moved along the walls, dancing in patterns he couldn't understand. The air smelled sweet, like fresh rain on alien rock, and a faint hum filled the background, almost like the heartbeat of the home itself. Ryan took it all in, speechless for a moment. Leora welcomed him with a smile that was so gentle it made him feel, for the first time in months, that he could relax. She poured a warm, amber-colored drink into carved crystal cups and gestured for him to sit. "It is rare for a human to visit without fear," she said softly. "I'm glad you came." Ryan sat down and smiled. "I've been around enough alien worlds to know fear," he said. "But there's something about this place, something that feels safe." For the first time in a long time, Ryan felt a strange comfort in an unfamiliar world. He told Leora about Earth, about oceans, storms, laughter, and life in its simplest and most complicated forms. She listened, fascinated, asking questions he had never expected. She wanted to know about everything. The colors of the sea, the taste of chocolate, the way people cried at both happy and sad moments. Her curiosity was innocent, and yet there was a depth in her eyes that made him pause. As they spoke, Ryan couldn't help but notice the quiet strength in her. She moved with a calm elegance, but there was a tension in her hands, a hesitation that suggested she had seen danger and pain. He wondered if she had suffered, if she had lost someone or something important, and somehow he felt a protective instinct growing inside him, a desire to keep her safe from the galaxy that had already taken so much from him. Time passed, and the sun of Velithra's twin stars began to set. The sky glowed with strange colors, deep violet fading into gold and streaks of crimson that reflected in Leora's eyes. Ryan found himself watching her, noticing the way her expression softened when she laughed, the small tilt of her head when she listened carefully, the quiet dignity that seemed to radiate from her very being. "Why are you so kind?" he asked finally, almost forgetting he was speaking aloud. She looked at him, her silver eyes shining. "Kindness is not weakness," she said. "It is strength. Even if the world does not see it that way, strength lies in care." Ryan felt a lump in his throat. Her words were simple, but they struck something deep inside him. Here was an alien woman, from a species humans barely understood. Yet she spoke truths he had spent years forgetting. In that moment, he thought he could stay forever in that glowing home, safe from war, fear, and loss. But Ryan did not know the truth yet, the secrets hidden behind Leora's calm smile, the weight she carried in silence and the storm that was waiting, ready to shatter the fragile peace of her home. He only knew one thing for sure. He wanted to stay. He wanted to trust her. And for the first time in a long time, he felt a warmth in his heart that he had thought the universe had stolen from him forever. Over the next few days, Ryan found himself returning to Leora's home more often than he expected. Each visit felt like stepping into a world untouched by the violence and chaos he had known in his life. The cliffside house, glowing with soft crystal light, became a sanctuary he hadn't realized he needed. Leora would greet him with the same calm smile, her silver eyes reflecting the alien sun, and Ryan felt a strange sense of belonging. She showed him her small garden, a strange and beautiful collection of glowing plants and flowers that hummed faintly when the twin moons rose. Each flower seemed to respond to her presence, bending and pulsing as though alive in their own way. "They are sensitive," she explained softly. her hand brushing over the petals. They feel what I feel. Ryan watched her, noticing the care in her touch. He thought about the war zones, the destroyed cities, and the countless lives he had seen lost. None of that compared to the fragile beauty Leora nurtured here. Somehow, despite the danger he knew lurked in the galaxy, he felt safe. And that safety was intoxicating. She spoke often about her family, her home planet, and the history she carried in her people's memory. Ryan learned that Leora had lost her father years ago, a scholar who had studied humans and other species in secret. "He would have liked you," she said one evening, her voice soft, tinged with sadness. "He always admired courage, even in strangers." Ryan felt warmth in his chest. He didn't know why, but her words and presence stirred something he had long thought buried. He wanted to protect her, though he couldn't explain why. Every time she smiled or laughed lightly, he felt a strange pull in his heart, a mixture of admiration and worry. One evening, when Valithra's twin moons rose over the cliffs, Leora brought out a small glass instrument. The way she held it, her fingers dancing lightly over its surface, fascinated him. She played a haunting melody, notes rising and falling like waves of emotion. Ryan sat quietly watching her, and for the first time he didn't think about battles or survival. He thought only of the sound, the music that seemed to carry sorrow, hope, and longing all at once. "You play beautifully," Ryan said softly when the song ended. Leora's silver eyes met his. "Music remembers what words cannot," she said. "It carries the weight of memory, the things we cannot say." Ryan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He had seen so much death, so much loss, and yet here she was, fragile but strong, carrying her own burdens with quiet grace. He felt a connection to her, a bridge between human and alien, built from understanding and empathy rather than fear or power. As the nights passed, their conversations deepened. She asked him about Earth, about childhood memories, about the people he had loved and lost. And Ryan, who had spent years hiding behind duty and discipline, found himself opening up. He told her about his sister, the one he had lost in a mining accident on a distant colony, and about the friends who had died in battles he could never forget. Leora listened, never interrupting, her hand sometimes brushing his arm lightly. Her presence was comforting, almost grounding. She understood in ways few humans could, and yet she was alien in every sense, her culture, her appearance, her way of seeing the world. And still Ryan felt he could trust her. One night under the twin moons she whispered softly, "Humans feel so much, even when you hide it." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "That's true. We do," he said quietly, his voice almost a whisper. A smile touched her lips, faint but sincere. Maybe that is why some humans are dangerous, and why some are worth protecting. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine, not from fear but from the weight of her words. There was a depth in Leora, a story untold, a pain hidden behind that calm demeanor, and he realized that in this quiet, in this fragile moment, he was beginning to care for her, not just as an ally, not just as a stranger, but as someone he could not imagine losing. He did not yet know the dangers lurking ahead, the secrets Leora carried, or the choices he would soon face. But he knew one thing clearly. He wanted to be there for her, to stand by her, and to protect this fragile piece he had never expected to find on a distant alien world. And for the first time in a long time, Ryan believed that maybe trust, even with the unknown, was worth the risk. Ryan had been visiting Leora's home for several days now, and each time he came he felt a strange comfort, but curiosity gnawed at him, whispering questions he couldn't ignore. Leora was kind, gentle, and honest in most ways, yet there was something she did not show, something behind her silver eyes that she kept locked away. It was on the 7th day, as Leora prepared a glowing meal of alien fruits and nectar, that Ryan noticed a faint outline in the rock wall behind her home, a door carefully sealed carved seamlessly into the cliff itself. "What's that?" he asked casually, trying not to betray his growing suspicion. Leora's hand froze for a heartbeat. Then she smiled, too quickly, too sharply. "Oh, that's nothing. Just storage. Supplies. Nothing important." Ryan's instinct screamed that this was a lie. Her eyes flickered briefly toward the door, and the small tremor in her hands betrayed her calm demeanor. But he said nothing. That night, after she went outside to collect a glowing flower for the garden, he found himself standing in front of that door, fingers trembling as he activated his wrist scanner. The lock clicked and the door slid open. A soft hum filled the hidden room and Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Rows upon rows of crystal pods lined the walls. Each pod glowed faintly, filled with some strange liquid, and inside each was a human, or at least what had once been human. Ryan stepped closer, horror twisting his stomach into knots. He saw faces he recognized from history, from Earth's expeditionary forces preserved in eerie stasis. One soldier's arm had a patch he remembered clearly, a human man, part of an expedition Ryan had led himself years ago. His eyes seemed frozen, staring into nothingness. He turned quickly, and there she was, Leora, standing at the threshold, her silver eyes wide with fear. "You weren't supposed to see this," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ryan's heart pounded. "What is this, Leora? What have you done?" Her mask of calm broke, and she stepped forward, hands shaking. "He came before you. 10 years ago. He tried to harm my people. He was reckless, cruel. I couldn't let him survive in our world, but I couldn't. I couldn't just kill him, my father. He told me there was a way to preserve life without letting humans destroy Velithra. These pods, they keep them alive but not free. They exist between life and death." Ryan felt bile rise in his throat. "So you kept them like this? Trapped them?" "I didn't want to hurt them," Leora said, tears glinting in her eyes. "I only wanted to protect my people, my father. He gave me the choice, but it wasn't a choice at all. I thought I was saving them. I thought I was doing the right thing." Ryan stared at the pods, at the human faces frozen in suspended time. The room felt heavy, thick with guilt, fear, and secrets. He wanted to run, to escape the truth of what he had stumbled upon. Yet something in him rooted him to the spot. "You're not innocent, Leora," he said, his voice low, trembling with anger and disbelief. "You can't pretend this is just mercy." She stepped closer, trembling, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never claimed to be innocent. I only wanted to survive. I wanted to protect my people, and now you know the truth, and I fear your kind will never forgive me." Ryan's mind raced. Humans could never forgive this easily. Yet he felt a strange conflict. There was guilt in her eyes, a heavy weight she had carried alone for years. She was dangerous, yes, but she was also terrified, human in her fear, human in her mistakes. Before he could speak, she added softly, almost pleading, "The others, they will come for you. They think you're the same as him. I tried to hide this, but they will not understand." Ryan's stomach twisted with dread. The world he thought he had found peace in was now a cage of secrets, danger, and moral ambiguity. And the woman he had begun to trust, perhaps even care for, was at the center of it all. He took a deep breath. "Then we face it together," he said quietly, meeting her eyes. "Whatever comes, we handle it. You don't have to do this alone." Leora's lips trembled, and for a moment her silver eyes shone with something softer. Hope. And yet, Ryan could feel the storm gathering beyond the walls of her home, waiting to break, and he knew that the calm he had felt was about to end forever. Ryan stood frozen, staring at the rows of crystal pods. The air in the hidden room felt heavy, thick with guilt and fear. Each pod contained a life, a human life, suspended in time, neither alive nor fully gone. He could feel the weight of Leora's secret pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. Leora's voice trembled. "I didn't want you to see this," she said softly. I thought you would hate me forever." Ryan's chest ached. "Why didn't you tell me? Why hide something like this?" She lowered her eyes. "Because I was afraid you would leave, afraid you would destroy what little trust we had. I wanted to show you only kindness, to let you see who I am, not what I have done." He stepped closer to her, anger and confusion warring inside him. "Leora, these are human lives, people we could have saved. How could you decide to trap them like this?" Tears welled in her eyes, shining silver in the dim light. "I didn't choose this lightly, my father. He told me it was the only way to protect my people. They would have killed us, Ryan. They would have destroyed Velithra. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I could preserve life while keeping my world safe." Ryan's hands shook as he looked at the pods. "You preserved life, but you robbed it too. They can't live freely. They can't feel, love, or die on their own terms. You've trapped them in a prison of your guilt." Leora flinched, but then her voice hardened slightly. "And yet I could not kill them. Do you understand?" I could not end their lives even when my people demanded it. I could not lose my humanity, even as I followed my father's orders.
Do you know what it feels like to be the only one holding life and death in your hands?
Ryan swallowed hard, seeing the struggle etched across her face. He realized then that Leora's strength was not just in her power, but in the restraint she had forced upon herself for years. The weight she carried was unbearable, yet she bore it alone. You're not just hiding guilt, Ryan said quietly. You're hiding fear. Fear that someone like me will judge you. Fear that your people will punish you. And maybe, fear that you've lost your way. She looked at him, her silver eyes glistening. I am lost, Ryan, and now, you know my truth. Ryan felt the storm of emotions crashing inside him. Anger, disbelief, pity, and a strange spark of understanding. He thought about the countless battles he had fought, the soldiers he had lost, the impossible choices he had faced. And he realized something. Leora was not so different from him. She was human in her fear, human in her mistakes, human in her hope for mercy. Before he could say anything more, a sudden sound echoed from outside the home. Crystal shards vibrated in the walls. Leora stiffened. They're here, she whispered, her voice tense. The others, my people, they believe you are like the humans in these pods. They will not stop until they destroy you. Ryan's heart pounded. Then we fight, he said quietly, though fear surged in his chest. We survive together. Leora's trembling hands reached for his. I don't know if I can control them all, she admitted, but maybe if we face them together we can find a way. Maybe. There is hope yet. Ryan nodded, feeling a new resolve building inside him. He had survived impossible odds before. He had faced entire armies and still stood. And now, faced with a choice between leaving or staying, he chose to stay. Not for duty, not for orders, but for the woman who had shown him a quiet strength stronger than any weapon he had ever held. She pressed her forehead against his for a brief moment, a silent plea and a fragile trust passing between them. In that instant, Ryan knew that whatever came next, he would not falter. He would protect her, not because she asked, but because he had come to care deeply for her. And outside, in the shadows of the cliffside, a storm gathered, silent, deadly, and relentless. The night was quiet at first, almost too quiet. Ryan and Leora had barely caught their breath after the revelation in the hidden room, when a low hum grew louder from the cliffs above. Shadows moved along the rocks, fast and deliberate. Ryan's heart sank. He knew immediately what was coming. Leora, they're here, he said, his voice tight. Her silver eyes widened with fear, but she forced herself to stay calm. The others, my people, they think you are the same as the humans in the pods. They will not listen to reason. From the cliffs, Velithran soldiers descended. Their crystalline armor shimmered in the dim light, and energy weapons glowed like stars ready to strike. Ryan's training kicked in instantly. He ducked behind a low crystal wall, rifle raised, scanning for targets. They're too many, Leora shouted, her voice trembling, but determination shone through. I can stop them. But you must trust me. Ryan hesitated for only a moment. The pleading in her voice, the trust she was placing in him despite everything, gave him resolve. Do it, he said firmly. Leora's hands rose, delicate but commanding. She began to sing in her melodic alien tongue. The sound was beautiful, almost unbearable in its intensity, echoing through the cliffs. Ryan felt it in his chest, a vibration that seemed to reach into his very bones. The crystals around the valley pulsed, resonating with her song. The Velithran soldiers froze mid-step, their weapons suspended in the air. The crystal light spread outward like a wave, encasing them in a shimmering stasis. Ryan watched, awe and disbelief battling with fear. Leora's power was beyond anything he had imagined. She was saving him, saving both of them. But the effort was clear in the way she trembled, sweat forming on her brow. When the wave of light faded, the soldiers were still immobilized. Leora collapsed to her knees, gasping, her strength spent. Ryan ran to her side. You did it, he said, his voice catching. I stopped them, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But I had to protect you, protect my home. Ryan helped her to stand, feeling the fragility beneath her strength. Her body was shaking, drained from the effort, but her eyes still held that quiet fire, the same fire that had drawn him to her in the first place. You saved me, he said softly. Leora looked at him, her lips trembling. Maybe this time, I did the right thing, she said. Her voice was small, but in it was hope, something rare and precious in a world full of conflict. Ryan glanced at the frozen soldiers, then back at her. Your people, they won't forget this, and yet you still risked everything for me. Her silver eyes glistened. Sometimes, we do what we must even when no one will understand. Even when it's the hardest choice of all. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. He had seen many acts of courage in his life. Brave soldiers, heroic sacrifices, desperate battles won against impossible odds. But this was different. This was quiet bravery, the kind that didn't shout, didn't demand recognition, and yet carried more weight than any army could muster. He reached out and took her hand gently. You're not alone, Leora, not anymore. We face this together. She nodded, faintly smiling through her exhaustion. Together, she whispered. The storm outside the cliff still raged, distant but inevitable, and Ryan knew that the calm they had felt before, the peace he had tasted in her home, was gone. But in its place was something stronger, a bond forged in trust, courage, and the willingness to face the impossible. As the twin moons of Valithra bathed the valley in silver light, Ryan realized one truth he had always known deep down. Even in the darkest nights, humans, and those who choose to fight alongside them, could shine brighter than any star. The valley was quiet now, the threat of the Velithran soldiers frozen in shimmering stasis. Ryan supported Leora as she stumbled slightly, her strength drained by the immense power she had unleashed. Each step she took seemed heavier than the last, as if the effort had taken pieces of her very soul. You did everything you could, Ryan said softly, his hand still gripping hers. You saved us. Both of us. She shook her head faintly, tears glistening in her silver eyes. I didn't do enough, she whispered. My people, they will come back. And I cannot fight them again. I cannot risk losing you, Ryan. Ryan's heart ached. He wanted to say everything, that she was safe with him, that he would stay, that nothing could harm her while he was near. But deep down he knew her words carried truth. Her people, her world, demanded her sacrifice, and the cost of leaving her behind was unbearable. You can come with me, he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. To Earth. We can find a way to protect your home from there. You don't have to fight alone anymore. Leora looked at him, her expression pained but resolute. If I leave, Valithra will die. The crystals. My life is tied to them. The balance of my people depends on me staying here. It is the curse of my bloodline, Ryan. I cannot abandon it even for you. Ryan swallowed hard, his throat tight. Then I'm not leaving you, he said quietly, a desperate edge in his voice. If you stay, I stay. We face it together. She shook her head, tears spilling freely now. No, you must leave. You have a life to live, a world to protect, a people who need you. You cannot waste your strength on me. Tell them. Tell your people the truth. Tell them we never wanted war. Tell them I'm sorry. For everything. Ryan's chest tightened. He could not imagine a universe without her. Yet he knew she was right. The responsibility she carried was too great for one person, and her world depended on her. I will. I promise, he said, his voice breaking. She pressed her hand gently to his face, her touch light but full of meaning. Go, human, live. For both of us. Remember me not for the pain, but for the hope we shared, brief as it was. Ryan felt tears sting his eyes as he pulled back slightly. I will never forget you, Leora, he whispered. Never. She smiled faintly, a fragile light in her exhausted eyes. Then, I'm not entirely alone. As he stepped back, the crystals in her home pulsed softly, a faint glow surrounding her like a protective shield. She raised her hands, her energy flowing into the stones and flowers around her, sustaining the fragile life of her world. Ryan watched, heart heavy, as she seemed to become one with her home. Glowing in quiet, selfless power, finally, he turned and ran toward the cliffs, the path back to his ship clear but his mind clouded with grief and longing. Every step away from her was a stab to his heart, but he carried the memory of her silver eyes, her gentle smile, and the sound of her voice echoing in his mind. From the cliff's edge he looked back once. Leora stood there, small but unyielding, the glow of her home reflecting her strength. She raised a hand in a final gesture, a silent farewell that spoke louder than words ever could. Ryan knew he could not change her fate, but he could carry her story. He could honor her sacrifice and the courage it took to protect her people, even at the cost of her own freedom. The twin moons of Velithra bathed the valley in silver light, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. Ryan felt the weight of loss, yes, but also a strange pride. Humans often fought for themselves, for survival, for glory, but Leora had fought for others, for a world not her own, with courage that transcended fear. And as he stepped into the night, heading toward his ship, he carried more than memories. He carried hope, hope that even across galaxies, even across impossible odds, kindness, courage, and sacrifice could shine brighter than the darkest storms. He whispered softly to the wind, as if she could hear him, "Farewell, Leora, until we meet again." Months had passed since Ryan left Velithra. Back on Earth, the familiar sights and sounds should have comforted him, but nothing felt the same. The oceans he once loved now seemed smaller, the stars above dimmer, and the bustling cities of humanity louder than he wanted. Every memory of Leora haunted him. Her silver eyes, the gentle glow of her home, the fragile smile she had given him that final night. He carried a small crystal pendant around his neck, the only gift she had left him. It pulsed faintly in his hand like a heartbeat. Sometimes in the quiet of night he could almost hear her voice, soft and melodic, whispering across the distance. "Humans feel so much, even when you hide it." Ryan often walked alone along the coast, staring at the endless waves, thinking about what she had sacrificed. She had stayed behind to protect her world, to carry the burden of life that none of her people could bear. She had chosen her duty over herself, not because someone demanded it, but because it was the right thing to do. Even in her silence, even in the shadows of her guilt, she had been a light, a reminder of courage that did not need weapons or armies to exist. He remembered the hidden room, the crystal pods, and the truth that had shaken him to his core. The humans trapped there, preserved in time, had been victims of circumstance, yes, but also of Leora's mercy. She had chosen restraint over revenge, compassion over power. He thought about the countless battles he had fought, the enemies he had destroyed, and he realized something profound. Heroism was not always loud or violent. Sometimes it lived in the quiet choices, the acts of care, the decisions to protect life even when it was dangerous, even when no one understood. Ryan had reported back to Earth, careful to omit the hidden truths that could spark war. He wrote only what mattered, that the Velithrans were not enemies, that kindness and understanding could bridge galaxies, and that sometimes the most extraordinary courage came from those who carried the heaviest burdens in silence. In quiet moments, he would touch the crystal pendant, feeling its faint warmth, and imagine Leora smiling at him, proud and steadfast, glowing even in the darkness. The pendant reminded him of her bravery, her humanity, and the hope that even in a universe full of conflict, compassion could survive. Sometimes, he spoke aloud to her, though she was far away. "You taught me something important, Leora," he said softly. "Strength isn't just about fighting or winning. It's about choosing to protect, to care, even when it costs everything." The wind carried his words across the oceans, across planets, and though he could not know if she could hear them, he felt a connection, a bond forged in trust, courage, and shared sacrifice. Ryan realized that human strength was not measured in weapons or technology, but in the ability to rise above fear, to fight not for glory but for others. And in Leora, he had seen that strength, reflected in a quiet alien woman who had opened her home, her heart, and her life to him. The memory of Leora became his guiding light. In moments of doubt, when the weight of responsibility pressed down on him, he remembered her courage, her choices, and her quiet defiance of fate. It reminded him that humans, unfragile, emotional, flawed, could still rise to greatness when they acted with honor, empathy, and bravery. As he stood on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, the sun rising in gold and pink over the horizon, Ryan whispered one final promise to the wind. "I will live, Leora. I will live for both of us, and I will never forget the courage you showed me, or the light you carried in the darkest night." And somewhere, across the stars, Ryan felt certain that Leora's light still shone, quiet, steadfast, and eternal, a reminder that even across galaxies, even across impossible odds, kindness and courage could outshine the darkest storms.